DJ Leroy.
Night Watchman, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
All right. Remember, the creative juices that I've been able to experience typically come from those who have a story to tell. And then you know what, Night Watchman? Coming from writing.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have to then explore that more, especially with what. How would you feel about traveling the globe by yourself?
Sounds like a good idea. I haven't been able to figure out how to do it, but yeah, it's great.
So, so, in other words, you wouldn't even take me, huh?
I would definitely not take you.
Wow. Okay, forget that. Forget that. You know that we got to find out how it's really
you'd
done.
Want to get to the airport like 7 hours in advance. I want to be early. I don't like. I want to find my spot. You know.
What's so wrong about that? You know, I go through that particular argument with Karen already. You know this, right?
Exactly. That's why I know.
Okay, forget it. Bring out a Soul Line primetime veteran, Karen Gershowitz. Come on, bring her out.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Karen. Great to see you.
Nice to see you guys.
I assume you've traveled some places since we've last saw you.
More than some, quite a few.
That's what I thought.
And you're going to tell us about those and why? Oh, why? Let me see. Let's say traveling by yourself as opposed to, let's say, with a companion.
Oh, I do sometimes travel with friends.
Okay.
But I actually prefer traveling alone, which I know surprises everyone.
Yes, indeed.
But there's two big reasons for it. First one is I control my day. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want.
Yes.
And I don't have to have the whims of someone else. And the second piece, which is probably even more important, is if you're with someone else, people don't come up to you to talk. You're by yourself, you can get into conversations with all kinds of people. And I love talking to people. So it's a great way to connect when you're, overseas and you want to meet people. That's the way to do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you know what? Our other guest, an author, but I first got to know her because she literally put this nonprofit organization on the map. And it was for, let's say, young people, youth in quote unquote Harlem, really making sure that they had educational enhancements. And one of the things that every year which would be wonderful, a college reveal day. Okay, I can only be talking about my friend. I just call up. I'm going to say one word. Ruth, how you doing, my dear?
Yeah, I love this, and I can't believe you matched me with Karen because my whole world has been about traveling solo and travel and adventure. So I'm excited to get into this because Karen, everything you said, not only from the idea of planning your own day, but also being able to connect with others because you're not worried about someone else is such a gift. So, and I've just got back from a trip myself, so I'm excited to share that.
Okay, yes, you are definitely going to do that. And one of the things I guess, first I got to talk about. So Karen, one of the things I have to say, remember, I met you and knew you as a SCORE mentor. So tell me about the background, and then also, have you always been a writer?
Well, I was a writer, but not for pay. Now I get paid to do it.
Yes.
But the SCORE mentoring came about because of travel. Believe it or not, my background, I have a BFA and an MFA in ceramics.
Wow.
Yeah. And once I got the degree, I thought, how am I going to ever pay for travel? And I was already committed. I was really a junkie, a travel junkie. And so I had to find a real job, and I fell into marketing research initially, and then the strategic marketing. And even before I retired, I started mentoring with SCORE, figuring I would give back.
Yeah.
And as you know, I teach a lot of classes for SCORE and up at HCDC. So been doing that for almost 8 years now.
Nice. And so the writing, you had always kind of been doing that. Let's say you said not for paid at first, but just doing that, right?
Yeah. My mother got me into it when I was a kid. She said, we went on a trip, I think when I was about 8 years old, to Florida. And she said, you have to write down what we did so you can remember it. And she made me keep a journal.
Nice.
And she got me into the habit of doing that, and I've done it my whole life.
Wow.
I have travel journals going back from every personal trip, not every business trip, but every personal trip since I'm 8 years old.
Excellent, excellent. And Ruth, in terms of you now, your whole engagement, of course, working with young people, empowering them, giving them self-confidence, self-worth, the whole thing, but then the writing. So tell me about that journey.
Sure. So what's interesting is I spent 25 plus years as a nonprofit leader, Curtis, focused on education, focused on mentoring of young people. And then I was in a conversation about diversity and leadership. And I asked a really naive question. I said, do you see me as diverse? And I know for your audience, whether they're listening or watching this,
yes,
there's a space of, oh, she's a white female. She uses those she series pronouns. She doesn't look diverse. And that was the same reaction when I asked the question, do you see me as diverse? The answer was, I don't know. I guess you're a woman. So maybe that's that gender box.
Right.
And I asked a follow-up question, which was, what about my disability? I was born with a limb difference. And for listening, I was born missing my left hand.
Yep.
And the answer back to that was, oh, well, we don't see you as disabled. We don't see you.
Wow. Okay.
And it got me thinking, Curtis, about how do we define diversity? What is included in it?
Yeah.
And disability often isn't. And so as the first foray into kind of speaking about it, I had a company invite me in and I got to share my story. And part of my story is that for 25 years, I hid my hand.
Yes.
I literally tucked it away so that nobody would know. And I came back from a sabbatical, did a TEDx talk, and then wrote a book about my journey of hiding and learning to unhide, with the idea that most of us are hiding something about ourselves to unhide, because it takes a toll on ourselves. It takes a toll on our mental health and our physical health. And so writing about it was super cathartic and also clarifying.
Absolutely. So tell me about this in terms of this journey, in terms of unhiding, which is, by the way, the name of your book. What were there folks who, let's say you're in company, you're having a meal together or whatever, ask you about the disability? How does it usually unfold?
Yeah, I think oftentimes as adults, we don't ask, right?
Right. That's true.
Because we're taught as children, oh, disability is something we don't talk about. Don't ask about that. And yet kids are naturally curious and wonderful and vibrant. And so they ask. When adults do it, they first stare. They almost do a double take, right? And they feel like, oh, so I make it accessible so that people can ask about it. I'm somebody on my disability journey who wants to talk about this process of accepting my disability, what it was like for me. But I'm also only one person's journey in disability. And so the conversations, what I think is even kind of a greater conversation, Curtis, as I think about it, is in corporations, how do we share those part of ourselves where we may need support or where we may need understanding?
Yes.
And so that's what I look at with those corporate conversations is how do we ask people how they are, what they may need help with, and what are we willing to offer about ourselves?
Yes.
As a model.
Absolutely. So of course, you, Karen, I love what you said, because my wife and I sometimes, in terms of going in a group, we don't like it. There's a lot of pressure, pressure to behave, to go with their schedule, which may not necessarily be yours, but you at an early time just said, I'm going to do this on my own by myself.
Yeah. I mean, I left home when I was 17, or as my uncle said it many years ago, when you ran away. Which was not too far from the truth, I might add. But in any event, I moved to Europe, and I ended up spending 3 years there. And after 3 years at age, as really young age, having to deal with things on my own, figure things out, you get really brave. And I didn't think about it. At the time, I didn't think it was very brave. It didn't occur to me. I look back at it now and I go, wow, that really was pretty brave. But it was just something I did. And the more I did it, the more passionate I became about it. And then, to be honest with you, the books came about partially because I had a lot of stories to tell, but also because I really want to encourage people to travel. And I'm writing a third book now.
Oh.
And, and about halfway through. And Ruth, I have to interview you for this. I have to. Because the book is to convince people who, for whatever reason, don't feel they can travel or should travel, or it's too difficult, they're too old, they have a disability, whatever it may be, to convince them that it's not only possible, but it's fun and it's absolutely doable. And I've done a lot of talks about travel with senior groups and all kinds of groups. And there's always the, well, but what happens if? And, and so you have to convince people that, in fact, you can manage it, you can do it. And I'm not saying you have to travel alone, but get out of your neighborhood,
Yes.
So it's a really, it's a real mission I'm on, because I think the more people know about the world and the more they experience it, the better off we'd all be. I think there'd be a whole lot less tension in the world if we got to understand that other people basically want the same things we want.
And Karen, certainly now, as a woman, a white woman, by herself, let's say third world country, whatever, have you not felt a little bit intimidated, frightened, scared? Tell me.
No. To tell you that, no. Again, part of it is, at this point, I've been doing it for so long that it doesn't bother me. Nice. And I'm pretty comfortable with anyone. It's like, I don't care who you are. You're another human being.
Yes.
And seriously, I probably have some biases there, but in truth, everybody does. But in truth, I take you at face value, until I learn otherwise. And most people respond to that. They know that I'm really genuine. They get it. And so, the only time I've ever had anything stolen from me, believe it or not, was in Japan, which is supposed to be the safest country. I had my wallet stolen.
Wow.
The only time I've ever been really hassled was in London. So who's to say? And and at this point, I didn't say this before, but I've been to 95 countries.
Wow.
And a lot of them many, many times.
Nice.
And so, it's, the fear factor is long gone.
Gotcha.
Very long gone.
Love it. And so Night Watchman, so let me see. So your last trip was actually to the Republic of Brooklyn, correct? Or what?
My last trip was to Eleuthera.
That's
an island in the Caribbean, and you're not familiar with that.
No, I'm not. So, you got to drop some jewels. I see. Quite nice. Did you have a good time, Night Watchman, or what?
I had a great time. It was wonderful. Okay.
Very good. Well, Ruth, you said that you had just come back from a trip. Do tell me about your trip. And
well, and I think,
where?
Sorry, no. And something that Karen said too about the idea of travel, it's just exposing young people to travel, right? That's what part of, when you met me, Curtis, I was running an organization in Harlem, and part of our mission was also exposure to other communities. And so not only the corporate communities in New York City, but also traveling. So I took kids to Nepal. We went to Cuba. We went to Sweden. We went to Detroit. Like just getting kids outside of, to Karen's point, their neighborhood sometimes really important, because there are a lot of insecurity sometimes when you haven't traveled, right? There's the idea of, how am I going to do this? What's it like? What are the people like? Am I going to be able to eat the food? Am I going to and no, I just got back from 2 amazing trips. I celebrated a milestone birthday, and I took myself to travel alone to Iceland.
Iceland. Nice. Yes. Nice.
Was unbelievable and amazing and quaint. But right before that, this past winter, I went to Antarctica.
My God. You saw the whales and everything? What was it like?
The whales. I stayed with the penguins. And bird seals attacking us. Like, it was, I think the beauty of travel is absolutely what we've all been talking about, is that brave piece, right? It's about being brave. I think it definitely tests your boundaries, because even though we live in New York City and we have awareness often about things, or some of us live in New York City, there's awareness. And yet when we travel, it deepens our awareness. It creates a space for us to think. I have a ritual when I travel that I send myself a postcard from every place. And I tune into what I'm feeling when I'm there. What did I like about it? And then, so whether it's 2 weeks later or 6 weeks later, or one of them that came from when I was in South Africa and Zambia, took 6 months to come. So like later, you get the postcard later and you're able to reflect and think about, what is it that made a difference, right? What was I feeling at that time? And so that postcard ritual has become my thing of remembering my trips in a different way. Just like journaling, I do, just like Karen, that practice, journaling is important. And then I get the postcard to kind of almost cement that feeling. Yeah,
it reinforces. You're absolutely right. And Karen, do me a favor. Hold up your 2 books if you can. Let's see what they look like. Yes.
Okay. This is the first one, Travel Mania.
Yes, indeed.
And this was the more recent one. This was published last October.
Wanderlust. Yes. Okay, nice. And so the third, do tell, what's that going to be about?
Well, that's the one that's about, it's not just my stories, it's other people's stories about kind of how do you develop that bravery and how much fun it is to travel. And some practical tips. The other 2 are not practical tips. That's about stories about travel. But this is going to have a lot of practical tips about how do you go about doing that. One of the things I was so pleased about this. I was on a talk show, and they had a call in, and there was a woman who had recently been widowed, and she said, I've never traveled alone. I'm afraid about it. What do I do? So I said, well, for starters, take a map and draw a 50-mile circle around where you live. And then pick a town that you've never been to and go there for a weekend. See if you can do that. Find some restaurants, go eat out by yourself, and then plan a trip. And she did it, and I gave her some other advice. And then she found me, she got in touch with me and said, I did the weekend. It was so much fun. And I just signed up for a trip to somewhere in Asia. I don't remember. Yes. And that was one of the things that's like, it doesn't take much to get yourself ready to go on a trip to somewhere you've never been before. And you just have to convince yourself that you can do it.
Love it. And Karen, so let's say, because 95 countries.
Yep.
So let's say, as a novice, a newbie, I want your top 10 selections. What do you got for me?
Well, first of all, see the United States.
Yes.
I'm serious. Most Americans haven't seen the country. And then I would go, if you're really a novice, go to English-speaking countries. So England, there you don't have to worry about, are you going to be able to read the signs? Are you going to be able to order off the menu?
Right.
By the way, these days with Google Translate, you can go anywhere. I was just in Turkey, and I had this incredible conversation with a taxi driver using Google Translate.
Wow.
It was hilarious. And the 2 of us ended up laughing. We were telling jokes on Google Translate. But after that, I would say, what are you interested in? Forget about the country. Are you a music lover? Are you a nature lover? Do you love sports? Are you a foodie? If you're a foodie, go to a foodie country. I know you're a foodie, Curtis.
Yes.
But pick the place you're going to go, not just because it's a place that you've heard about, but because there's something there that you particularly want to do.
Yes.
If you're into nature, go to Iceland. Go to, pick a place that's going to have something that really interests you. And that's how you choose a place, not based on anything else. And then you trip around it.
Okay, very good. And certainly, Ruth, you have not traveled as extensively, but do tell me about, if I looked at your bucket list, what am I seeing?
Yeah, so I've been to 41 countries. So
not bad.
Hold up there.
That's right. No. She's no novice like me. I heard you, Night Watchman. Go ahead.
Check the record.
So go ahead.
No, I think there's countries that I continue to love spending time in and will go back to over and over. But I am so much about adventure, and I think travel is so good for your soul, right? It's part of not just your soul, but it also helps raise awareness of others about us in terms of Americans and how we travel and who we are, rather than some of the stereotypes and stigmas that we see. So my top 3 cities that I love are Paris and Prague and Cape Town. I love those are the 3 where I'll go back anytime you invite me. The other places on my list that I still want to go, I want to travel to India. I want to travel. I want to see Japan. So I'm excited, though, the wallet story, Karen. But I do hear it's safe. There's so many adventure places. I'm not someone who goes back to the same place over and over because there's just too many things to see. And I think I'm somebody, Curtis, that when I get on a plane, I can't wait to see who I'm sitting next to, because I can't wait to hear their story either, because that's part of the fascinating thing. And that's where I got a lot of material for my book. I'm not someone who puts the AirPods in and puts my glasses on or just reads my book. I want to sit next to somebody who wants to. We're going to be together sometimes 2/4/15 hours.
Yes.
Parts of people's stories.
Yes, I got you. And you know what? Okay,
Ruth, I want to hear a little bit more about your writing journey. I'm interested in that, how you came to. And by the way, the title of the book, Singlehandedly, I think is a great title.
Yes.
Tell us how you decided to move forward with that, and also tell us about doing a TEDx and taking that into the speaking journey, and how that transition into that part of your life evolved.
And also hold up that cover. Let's see what we got.
Sure. So this is the first book, but just like Karen, Karen's on her 3rd book. I'm on my 2nd book, and it's due out at the end of the summer. Okay. It's called Unhide and Seek. This is the first book, though. It's called
That's it. Yes.
Learning to Unhide and Embrace Connection. And Night Watchman, thank you for that question, because I think it's a journey with writing. It, wasn't starting out thinking I was going to write a book. I was planning to just do a TEDx, because that was my motivation to get on stage. And because I started hiding when I was 13, I stopped doing things I loved, like theater. And so as I've started to unhide, I've refound those things I loved, which one of them was being on stage, having an impact, getting people excited about things. And Curtis, you met me in a very different role, right? You met me when I was getting people excited about young people and education. And this is just an extension of that. This is now broadening that space of how are we hiding parts of ourselves, and how do we learn to unhide so that we can connect with ourselves. The TEDx was a gift, because I applied to a lot of TEDx's with the idea of sharing this idea of hiding, because it was an idea worth spreading, which is how do we start to tap into that? And my first TEDx was canceled. And I had worked all summer on that TEDx and thought, wow, not that it was a waste of time, because I think it was cathartic and it was clarifying. I got my message. And yet I wasn't sure who was going to hear it, because TEDx is an incredible platform for getting the word out.
Yes.
And so I was able to secure another TEDx within a few months. And I came back and I spoke to a speakers bureau, funny enough. And I said, I'm ready. Just put me on stages. I've been speaking for a while now. I have this TEDx. And this speakers bureau person said, where's your book? And I said, what? No, I don't need a book. He said, it's going to help you, because you're going to clarify even further this journey of and you're going to be able to offer it in a different way to people about them this time. Thinking about them. What is it that they can garner from your story of hiding? Because again, hiding is universal. Most of us, if not all of us, are hiding something. And it can be a disability like mine, or it can be people's backgrounds, their family backgrounds, their religion, their politics. We hear that a lot now, right? People don't share their politics.
Yeah, right.
The fear and the judgment. And so with this first book, I was the model. I was the role model in terms of how do I share my story so that others can start to say, hey, what am I hiding? And the second book, Unhide and Seek, turns the tables, and it's no longer my story. It's just like Karen, it's about you this time. How do you hide? And I have found that there are 4 types of hiders. And so as people go through the book, they'll figure out what type of hider they are and when it's okay to hide. What are the benefits of hiding and what are the costs to the workplace and to our personal lives?
Gotcha. Now, I work, you know where I work. And one of the things, there are people who swear by cruises. How do you guys, Karen, how do you feel about cruising?
Take one sometimes. It's not my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
And I will never go on a huge cruise ship. I mean, the ones that have 4,000 people, why bother? No.
Gotcha.
But in fact, I just planned one that I'm going to be doing in February. I've always wanted to go to the Pacific Islands. I've never done.
Okay.
And you kind of have to take a cruise because it's hard to get from one island to the next.
Gotcha.
You have an incredible amount of time.
Gotcha.
So I decided I would take a cruise. So, and I'm going with a friend, not doing it alone.
Gotcha.
It's a little bit different than most of my trips, but that's the exception rather than the rule. It's not my favorite thing to do.
And I'm assuming that you will chronicle that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I want to pick up on something that Ruth said about hiding.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing a lot of writing for an organization called Journeywoman, which is for solo female travelers who are 50.
Wow.
I'm on their editorial board and, all kinds of stuff. And for years now, I never wrote about the fact, and I think you know this about me, Curtis, maybe not, but I have a really bad back.
Yes.
I've had multiple surgeries. I'm about to have another one. And I just didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't mention I was going on all these trips, never saying, oh, yes. And the next day I had to lie in bed on a heating pad because I was in agony. And once I started opening up about it, I was getting all of these stories from other people about how they managed to travel when they had some kind of chronic pain. And it was really cathartic for a lot of people to be able to, first of all, see that somebody else was doing it, but then to be able to tell their own story.
Gotcha.
I applaud you, Ruth, for doing this because I think it's so important.
Beautiful. So, Night Watchman, we are in the lightning round, Night Watchman.
Yes, we are.
So, which means some closing remarks. And Ruth, while you're giving your closing remarks, hold up your book. And also, if folks are interested in Singlehandedly, where they can pick it up, do tell.
Amazon. It's written. It's in written form in terms of print and ebook, and it's also audio. I read it myself.
Oh, there we have it. Yes. Night Watchman. This is why I have you, because you got the tech down. I love it.
Yeah, you have me because you wouldn't be able to find your way around without me.
And yes, I admit it. We know our strengths. So yes, that's wonderful, Ruth. And of course, you'll be back to when the second one is about to drop. Correct?
And there's a whole nother conversation with Karen that we have to keep going on, because what you just said, Karen, about sharing part of your story, that's the beauty of unhiding, is it allows for someone else to see themselves in us and start their own journey of sharing where they may have had challenges or felt rejection or judgment. Like, that's the beauty of unhiding. It's a relief. It's almost like hiding is like holding your breath, right? For too long. Unhiding is the exhale that we get.
I love it. So Karen, hold up your 2 books and also where they can find them and what you got in the works. Night Watchman again. I love it. See this? Okay. Karen, you need to hire him for your social media. Trust me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's my website.
Yes.
You can buy them anywhere. They are on Amazon. They're on Barnes and Noble. You can go to a local bookstore. They're pretty much everywhere.
Wow.
I did not do an audio book, although people keep telling me I should, but I haven't done. But yeah, you can get them pretty much anywhere.
Beautiful. Well, Night Watchman, I guess we will have them both back to the cookout to talk to, well, especially you, Karen, after you've interviewed Ruth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will be in touch with you, Ruth, for sure.
Curtis is one of the best connectors I know, and that's what I've loved about him for over 10 years, for sure. So
right back at you, and tell Lauren if you talk to her, I miss her. Okay.
I will right after this.
Okay, you got it. Night Watchman, would you like to take us home?
Well, you've been listening to Soul Lounge Primetime on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Also live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. You can always find us on Monday nights, 7 p.m. at the radio and 8 o'clock live on YouTube and Facebook. We want to thank our guests for sharing their points of view and experience with them, and we wish them safe travels.
Good one. All right, y'all.